The importance of source control management for DevOps engineers. In this segment, we will review and understand some common definitions, discuss the importance of a source control management system for a DevOps engineer, describe the different source control management systems available, and give best practices on how to structure your systems. Let's begin with some definitions. DevOps is a fairly broad term for all work that combines development and traditional operations like building servers, handling alerts, deploying to those servers, etc. This is the larger, more generic role of a DevOps engineer. A very important and distinct area of DevOps is the code release pipeline. In many companies, this pipeline is a continuous delivery pipeline, which we will discuss in a later course. And in other companies, the code delivery requires manual QA approval. This role is often titled a deployment manager. Regardless of the pipeline or role, the source control management system is the most critical part of every deployment pipeline and a very important tool for a DevOps engineer. As a developer, you are probably familiar with the source control management system already, such as Subversion or Git. You'll need to be able to push and pull code according to the process that your company gives you. But as a DevOps or release engineer, you need a much deeper understanding of source control management, as you'll need to be able to create an architecture that facilitates developer productivity and, at the same time, a stable release of all code to production. You will need to ensure that the new code doesn't creep into a production release when a patch or bug fix is being made. You also need to ensure that a developer can work in isolation and be productive. There are a few basic questions that you'll need to answer by using your source control management systems, such as, how do you hotfix a bug in production? How do you ensure that other code that's being developed doesn't make it into that hotfix before it's ready? Things like that. There are two main kinds of source control management systems, centralized and decentralized. The centralized management systems, for example Subversion, have a single server that ensures that all code that's committed is serialized. It will often force you to pull code before you can push code in order to ensure that it's serialization. When code's committed, it's put up on the centralized repository immediately. Decentralized management systems, for example Git, do not have a centralized server. When code is committed, it's stored into a location on the local computer. Only later is that code pushed to another location. Git is a decentralized system. You can write and commit code on an airplane, for example, without an internet connection and push that code later. Or you can keep your repository on your computer and never push that code to another location. However, when collaborating with other developers, it's often easier to have a central location for a project. That's what the website GitHub is used for. The GitHub website can have a Git repository, just like the one on your computer. And if developers push to and pull from that repository, it acts like a hub. So even though Git isn't a centralized system, you can treat it like one. This gives us the benefit of both centralized and decentralized systems. Git is the most flexible source control management system. This gives you the ability to have an unbounded number of different deploy processes. In smaller, less experienced companies, 2 to 3 engineers for example, it's common for those engineers to be working off of master, similar to trunk in Subversion. Because they commit so seldom and don't edit the same files, they can operate like this fairly successfully. However, as companies grow, because of Git's flexibility, there are many different ways that code and deploy processes can be organized. In the larger and more mature companies, the best practice is known as Git flow. This is a common practice that's been seen implemented in many companies where I've worked. And this means that I can go to a new company and know fairly quickly how to organize and deploy code because they use the same Git flow practices, or at least something similar. So to summarize, in this lesson we reviewed the importance of source control management to a DevOps engineer. Unlike a normal programmer, your level of expertise in your source control management system must be higher so that you can architect best practice code deployment flows and debug problems when they come up.